Today's message at church was all about love and relationships. How about that segue? We're in church for good reason, as you can see.
I'm about to spit that coffee up.
All right, welcome back to the KRUSES. This is a show that absolutely nobody asked for. Wanted to jump in and revisit the story that some people have already heard in the past. Yesterday, I was randomly thinking about your time working with Mr. Mahdi. Mr. Mahdi was this guy that worked with Kara at the elementary school for a few years, and she would just mention him. And I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting name, Mr. Mahdi. And I thought it was like M-O-T-T-Y, maybe, like a soft T. There's a few ways you could have spelled it. Cut to the chase, found out that his name is actually Marty, and he's from the Boston area, and he just had an accent, and Kara would call him Mr. Mahdi. That was a wonderful... wonderful thing that I heard after.
That shows how cultured I am.
And that poor guy for just tolerating you every day.
Well, I never called him by his name because I thought it was odd. So I'd just say, hey, how's it going?
Oh my
I'd
gosh.
never say actually Mr. Mahdi.
Okay.
Could you imagine if I would have?
Oh, I thought you did. I wish you would have.
No. Yep. Thanks for that.
That was just on my brain. The other thing that's on my brain, just started the Netflix show Full Swing last night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hooked. You started to watch most of it, then you started dozing, but
I liked it. It wouldn't have been something I would have chose to watch on my own, but I would continue watching it with you.
well, I'm not even big into. I'm a terrible golfer. Love to play. I don't even keep up on any professional sports, especially the PGA, but I just love the nuances of behind the scenes and seeing how they operate and seeing how they live their life, and it kind of gives you a look at top-notch athletes, and I don't know, in some ways I feel like it's bad PR for some of them. It's not a great look, and then for others...
The show?
Yeah, just I think in anything like that, you kind of...
Well, I feel like golf is such a different sport from, like, NFL or NBA. Like, it's just not as, like... I don't know. I feel like you just don't know as much about those athletes, or, like... I don't know. It's just not talked about as much.
Yeah, it's not.
So, yeah,
it's
the
big in
show
culture.
is interesting to kind of see. Gives you a different perspective, and, yeah, maybe changes your opinion about some people.
And I don't think I fully appreciate how athletic they are and how good you have to be successful in professional golf, especially the PGA.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really neat. But I just love, like, I don't know, you get to see, I don't know, just the mental aspect of that life.
Yeah.
And to see how they live and the differences of lifestyles and attitudes and values. And there's such a contrast that it seems like the producers intentionally did of, like, certain players and how they live and what they think is important, and then the others of, like, a much more humble life. And
I can't speak too much on it because I was dozing in and out, but
we'll revisit it tonight.
Yeah. I know my mental game during golf is fantastic.
Oh my gosh. Well, one time we were golfing and
we were just bringing up stories about me.
We were on hole number 9 at Conrad. You'll never forget this. And you were
It was intentional.
No, I didn't. Did I say intentional?
No.
It was like you were on. It was still a homicide.
I'm sure it's happened to many people.
Kara was hitting her second or third shot, and there was a little gathering of birds, I don't know, 30 or 40 yards away, and I'm like, she'll definitely clear those. And then she was trying to be all, like, cutesy, and it was, like, earlier in our relationship too, and she's like, excuse me, little birdies, go on, birdies, I don't want to hit you. And I'm like, you're fine, just hit, you have a 3-wood. Smokes one, gets like 4 inches off the ground, and just directly hits a bird in the head.
Yeah.
And then it didn't die instantly. Then I had to run it over with a cart, whether or not that was vigilant or cool of me, but I felt like the thing was suffering.
That's what you always say.
I wasn't
put it out of its misery.
I wasn't about to do bird surgery right there, but
yeah,
that was wonderful.
Thanks for reminding me of that.
A wonderful experience of golf with you. You like to bang the old driver into the tee box every once in a while.
You want to bring up how you are on the sticks when you're playing Xbox with your boys?
Yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah, you know how you get.
I just yell. Mm-hmm. I ain't breaking things.
In college?
I did that one time.
You put a hole in a wall?
I did that once.
Okay. Anyway.
I patched it up with tape and paint.
Moving on.
Got my deposit back as well. Today's message at church was all about love and relationships. How about that segue? We're in church for good reason, as you can see.
I about to spit that coffee up.
Well, first, last week we took Harlow to the nursery for the first time, and that was a unique experience for us because we have never taken her to anybody that hasn't been family to watch her before. Yeah,
like she stayed with her grandparents or her aunts and been completely fine. Yes. But we've never taken her to like daycare or anything.
Right. So we did that. Kind of a little nerve-wracking for each of us, but it was a relatively good experience. I could just tell Harlow didn't have an incredible time, but she wasn't suffering, and we picked her up, and she was like, it was okay, but not...
I was probably suffering more than her.
Yeah, Kara was a sweaty mess throughout the entire service, literally. So we talked about doing that again today, and over the last few days, we were reminding Harlow of it, and she was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to the nursery, play with friends, and we're going to pick you up afterwards, and I thought everyone was on board with it. So we get ready to leave, and we're getting ready to put the shoes on, and Harlow kind of just has a meltdown. I want to stay with you. And I'm like, oh, I thought you wanted to go. And so we're like, okay, fine. You don't have to go to nursery. No problem. You're going to sit with us. And then we kind of were like, we'll show you when we get there, and maybe you'll want to go to the nursery.
Yeah.
Didn't want to, wanted to go to the service with us. So no problem. She's usually pretty chill, and it's fine. And then like 10 minutes into the worship service, she's like, I want to go to the nursery. We're like, really? And I was like, okay, cool. So Carol brought her out to the nursery, came back with the baby, and I'm like, what are you doing? I'm still trying to sing, and she's coming here.
Well, they have a whole check-in service, and I think I missed the check-in point since service had already started, so I couldn't print off her sticker.
I was like, oh, no, there's a way.
So I was like, oh, we'll just keep her.
I'm like, give me the baby, and I'll go talk to him. Got Harlow in there. Did a quick handoff, said thank you to the people, and I said, if there's any issues, of course, call me, whatever. Get done with service, had a great little message we received. Things were looking bright. We go there. Harlow is like
just bawling. Broke out blotches all over her face.
She just looks like she just went through World War III.
The caretaker's holding her and doing her best to comfort her.
Yeah, and she said she had a rough day. So Harlow didn't enjoy the nursery. We didn't know about it. We thought that they'd maybe call us or something which I thought I made clear, but I didn't make it clear enough. She misunderstood what I meant. So she was a trooper and trying to help comfort Harlow for that half hour or whatever. But
I also think, so Harlow started a gymnastics class, and I think when we were leaving for church, I think she thought maybe we were going to that class.
Yeah.
Because I think you call nursery class to her, which I call it nursery to her so that she doesn't get confused.
Yeah, it's my fault.
Yep.
My fault.
That's basically what I'm saying.
The message, though, was, I don't know, I think this whole series has been good for us to remind us of certain things. I think they're not maybe new ideas to us.
No.
I think a lot of it was addressed to us in like pre-marriage counseling, which was kind of a really good experience for us. And it also made me think of, I think it's so valuable what we did in pre-marriage was those little surveys and conversations to figure out each of our love languages. And he kind of touched on that today.
Yeah.
Actually, he did directly touch on exactly you. And one of Kara's big love languages is touch and feel. And she feels appreciated and loved when I'm just, hey, okay, yeah. A little background.
Yep.
And I appreciate those, but I really don't care that much if you give me that kind of attention.
I think what we learned too is that we tend to show love to each other in our own love language as opposed to, so like since I enjoy touch, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like, you know, always hug on Mike and touch him because I'm like, I'm showing him love. But like to you,
I'm
like you don't hate it.
Back up.
But you're like, that doesn't do for you what it does for me because it's not your love language.
And I didn't even think I had figured out, like, I was like, I don't know. I don't think I had even thought deeply about that. But then I did the survey and I'm like, oh, it almost made me look bad too because my number one love language was acts of service. I'm like, I need a servant around doing things for me. But
it's all in how you interpret it.
In some ways, that's, acts of service is, for a lack of better words. But
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for whatever reason, that's how I tick.
Yeah. But the message at church.
Yeah, what was it? Were you listening?
Yeah.
Go ahead, what you got?
What? And you're better at recapping. I think the whole series is just kind of talking about relationships and what love looks like and taking verses out of the Bible. And I think a lot of people can misinterpret those and what the Bible is saying. And I feel like the messages that he's been giving is just kind of figuring out what that interpretation actually is and what the Bible's trying to tell us about.
And it kind of reminded me, because we've been together for some time now.
Yeah.
And like the early stages of our relationship, like in high school dating, it was all about, I would describe like, oh, you want to stay with somebody because they make you feel good and like you have fun with them. And they do things that like, oh, she knows that I like acts of service, so she's always tending to that. And it's like, oh, this girl gets me. She's down to like move to the West Coast. Like that's what I see in somebody, well.
Yeah.
But then as you mature and like as the more you look into it spiritually and as a source of from God, it's like, it's not about you at all. And it's completely about how can you, I think at this stage in marriage for sure, is like, how do you sacrifice for the other person? Like, what do you do that they need?
Mm-hmm.
And like in any team and any relationship, if every party is all about the interests of the other people or person, like that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. I think I liked last week's message a lot. You're always talking about self-reflection and how good that is for your own personal growth. And I feel like last week's message was kind of bringing that up, being self-reflective in that a lot of times we have checklists of what we want our partner to be and do. And, like, you're a great father. Check, like that marks that box, whatever. But a lot of times we forget like about our own checklist and what we are for our partner. Mm-hmm. So like holding myself accountable of being those same things that I would want you to be for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think of like people that are single, or when I was single, it's like, I want this and this and this, like you said, the check boxes, but am I making like, I feel like if I would give anybody advice now for what it's worth, I'd be like, if you want to find your perfect mate, just focus on yourself and being the perfect mate. Like, just what can you do practically to make yourself attractive and likable and just a good person that someone would want to be with?
Mm-hmm.
And then your mate option. I'm speaking like they're zoo creatures. Like, this person that you desire will, I would imagine, cross paths with you, and you would I want to say summon more people towards you, but
obviously it's not going to be like some magical experience like do this and then instantly something's going to be placed in your life. But I think it's focusing on what you can control, and what you can control is how you are and how you're presenting yourself and the morals you have and whatever. And just by doing those things, I think naturally it will just bring you a healthier lifestyle and attract healthier people and whatever.
Yeah. What do we know?
Well, we're perfect, so.
Well, we're making it work, but it is this stage in our life where I think also there's a lot more variables that are thrown at us with Harlow and how she's changing daily. And then I think it comes up like baby boy coming in the picture at the end of March. comes up on my mind every once in a while, but I don't really think about it much. I'm just like, when it happens, we'll start rolling with the punches.
Mm-hmm.
But you, I think of it more often, and so
yeah,
that throws a wrench in relationships and your ideal way of going about the day and whatnot. But
for sure. But that's a whole other topic of just like having kids and how that can change your relationship and how the things you need to do to continue to make your marriage strong and having kids and stuff.
Right. Do you want to talk about the challenges that we've been facing with Harlow now, or should we do it on the next one?
We can do it.
In this conversation?
Sure.
People like to talk about, and I think we're guilty of it too, or maybe just naturally, is that, when someone's like, hey, how's it going? How's Harlow? And we're like, good, everything's great. She's blah this, she's saying this, she's jumping, blah, blah, blah. She's meeting friends. But I think it might even be more valuable and even good for us is to reflect on what has been challenging or just not as smooth.
It's kind of just like what people say about social media. You put your best out there and you don't ever really talk about the struggles you have or whatever. But obviously everybody has those struggles. Mm-hmm. And so we'll just open up our wounds for you.
Well, the one thing that I was thinking, and it's not even necessarily a struggle, but I think it might be something that we do differently. And it was actually something that I had not intended to do, but Harlow basically, she really co-sleeps with us a lot.
Yeah.
We start her off in her own bed, and she goes to her own bed, always for nap time, but at night. And then sometimes she'll sleep all the way through the night and wake up after 10 hours or whatever and start the day. But a lot of the time she'll wake up probably after about 5 or 6 hours and then just walk over and crawl in bed with us. Mm-hmm. At first I was like, there's no way. I don't see any benefits of that. I didn't really think of it much, but I think the more that it's happened and the more that I see Harlow develop, there are pros and cons to it, but I do see a lot of value in it.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people who are against it are thinking more of like the safety aspect of it, which I totally get.
Yes, when they were particularly small.
Yes.
Now it's not safe for me because
we're not so much talking about that.
I get headbutt, I get kneed in the face, and Harlow knows it, and she'll apologize. Sorry.
I had tootsies in my spine all last night.
Yes, so it is unsafe for the parents when they turn 2. Absolutely.
It really didn't start as something that I planned on either. I think it was just I was so exhausted at night. It just kind of turned into that.
Evolved into that. But I do feel like it creates... And I know there's some science behind it, but there's just a different level of connection that we experience with her. Mm-hmm. And she feels a level of safety that she doesn't experience in her own bed. Mm-hmm. And then again, there's a part of me that's like, well, shouldn't there be times where she should feel a bit fearful and be able to overcome it? Or I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what's the downside of her always being with us and comforted? But I think that's just a path that I think we're staying on at this point.
Yeah. I think we just know that it's not going to be forever. Mm-hmm. Like, there's going to come a day that she's just like, I'm good. Like, I don't need to climb in mom and dad's bed anymore.
It will happen, yes.
And I know that couples also talk about, like, how that can affect our relationship, constantly having our child in our bed with us. But it's not something that we feel like is a big issue right now.
You already have like 17 pillows
everywhere,
and I'm doing a UCLA sleep study right now too, so I got this bed thing that lays underneath me that I have to lay on in a certain way, and it registers my sleep, and so there's a whole bunch of imperfections already going on.
But yes, kind of just a lot of people like to call this stage the terrible twos, which we don't really label it that.
No,
but
not at all.
She is definitely in that stage of exercising more of her, just trying to figure out what her boundaries are and making her opinion very known. And I think something with Harlow too is like she's really good at communicating with us. So like, as opposed to her, because she's such a good communicator, it's even kind of more of a struggle sometimes.
Yes, because she's very specific about what she wants at that time.
Yes.
Which I think we encourage it.
Yeah.
It just makes it just adds a little level of planning and adjusting when.
But I think our approach is maybe different than the traditional or typical or something that I can see a lot of people why they just kind of fall into the traditional approach, but we try to take a different route with her.
Yeah, I think we're very mindful of trying to have her be cooperative but not controlled.
Yes. And
we want her to basically do as much as she wants as long as it's safe and it's not harming other people, and we really want her to explore taking risks and facing consequences on her own.
Mm-hmm. I told you about a video I saw recently that was, it was about what was it called? Oh, punishment versus consequences. And it was kind of, I feel like what we try to do, we don't really do punishment.
We don't. But
there's still consequences for certain things that she might do.
Yes.
So, we don't, this is in no way to shame anybody or anything, but, we don't spank, we don't do timeouts, we don't really raise our voice with her. But that's not to say that we don't have moments of frustration and
moments of thinking, maybe we should put her in timeout because she just, so we totally understand why that ends up occurring out of emotion and stuff, and you're just trying to do your best to keep her safe or not hurt other people or you or herself.
But I think ultimately we feel like if we were to take those routes or do those types of punishments or whatever, we just feel like in the long run it would harm her more than help her.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of research about that as well, and I think it will start. May not be. It will get you your way short term, but I think long term, the negative effects are
You're
pretty
evident.
You're saying
putting her in timeout and stuff will get our way.
You can get her to if you spank her, she'll probably stop doing what she's doing immediately because you're physically controlling her or using force. But it's not in my heart anymore to even. That doesn't even cross my mind. That's not even an option.
Right.
And then the more that I read and the more that I research about it, it just doesn't make sense either.
Yeah.
There's just not that much evidence in favor of it.
And I think what really got us started on it too was a book that you read, which is called, you may have mentioned it before.
Gosh, I'm blanking on the name right now. But it's all rooted in unconditional love. And
I'm blanking on the name too.
I have it right there. And I've recommended it to people. I'll put it in the description. And also, we don't even do punishment or negative reinforcement. We don't really do positive reinforcement, which is, I think, the other aspect of that's something that's different that we do.
And not to say that we're always perfect at that either.
No, and we probably fall short in all those categories at times. Maybe we don't even know it. But she's potty training right now, and she's pretty consistent. Not always, but even when she uses the bathroom, we don't give her a sticker or give her a piece of candy or anything. Or
we even try to take it as far as with anything that she does, we try not to say good job.
Right.
Not because we don't want her to not be celebrated or whatever, right. But I even think just saying good job is so broad. So I feel we, she could be oh, okay, good job. But what does that really mean? So I feel we try to be oh, we really loved that you told us you had to go to the bathroom. That makes it so much easier for us.
Now we don't have to change your diaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just being more intentional with what we're saying to her as opposed to just, hey, good job.
Right. So when she brings the dishes to us, we're not, hey, great. You did awesome. It's thank you so much for helping clean up. Saved us time. Saved us energy. We really appreciate it's things like that. And again, we're probably not even perfect in that aspect. No. And there's probably stuff that we could still be doing better, but that's just something that we're mindful of that I think we're seeing the benefits of it, and it just makes sense to us. And I think it's good for us to at least just be reflecting on having these conversations on what we could be doing better and if it's actually showing positive benefits. And I think it is with Harlow.
Yeah. I just had a moment with her before we started this that I was trying to put her down for a nap, and she was fighting me and resisting nap time. And I like was getting to that point that I'm like, I'm getting really frustrated. Like,
because you had her, you were about ready to spank her.
No,
you're like, I'm going to, and I'm like, don't do it. Remember our book? Did you read it?
No, but my point is like, obviously I still have those moments with her, but it's just being committed to taking a different approach and like trying to stay calm. And eventually I got her to sleep.
And actually, there was one time we were eating, was it the spaghetti night when she was eating spaghetti and I said, should I raise my voice? Remember that?
Well, we had rice the night before and she took a handful and threw it on the floor.
Yeah. So she tests us and it's a great thing to be like, okay, I want to grab your arm. You know.
That might have been the night too that you just looked at me and you're like, why is God testing us so bad today?
Oh my gosh, I know. But one time it was a few nights ago, and Harlow was throwing something on the floor, and like none of our conversations were like getting her to stop.
It's the worst when she just starts laughing at
Yeah, and like she definitely knows when like Kara is like when she's getting under Kara's skin, yes. And it's freaking funny because she's just playing the game. She's just being a kid. But she was doing something, and it was frustrating both of us, and we're like, gosh, she's making a mess, and she's just testing us, and I'm like, I didn't know what to do because my little tactics that my book's not working and maybe I was doing it wrong. But I like looked over to Kara and I was like, should I raise my voice? And I was like, I don't know, it doesn't seem right, but I'm like, I don't know. Should we try it?
Because I was like, don't yell at her. But I'm like, yeah, be a little more stern maybe.
Okay. I'm like, I don't know. And it didn't sit well with me. And maybe I was wrong for doing it. But I was like, Harlow, you need to stop. And she just like looked at me and like just died laughing and started throwing it more. And I even started dying laughing because I'm like, that is not me. And I'm like, why am I like trying to be serious? Like I felt like I was being like a really bad actor, which is not saying much, but it was like, just a really bad performance. And
she
sensed
right
it.
Through
it was like,
she's like, oh, good one.
It was
Dad.
like she was like running the prison yard 100%.
Yeah.
It was funny. And maybe we did the wrong thing. I don't think I was supposed to do that, but it didn't even work. And she clearly wasn't affected negatively. Yeah. She was just fueled by it.
I don't even remember how that situation ended up, but...
What else has she been doing that's testing? Or that's been challenging?
Sometimes there's... Well, I was going to say, when we were back in Iowa, sometimes she just loves to, like, pick on me. I think, like Mike said, like, she can tell, like, more with me when she's starting to get under my skin. And I was doing a puzzle at my parents' house.
Oh, yeah.
And she was sitting there. I think she was, like, eating a snack or something. And so she was just sitting there eating her snack. And I was, like, working on my puzzle while she was eating. And then, out of nowhere, she just starts grabbing my puzzle and just tearing it apart. And I was, like, I don't know what to do. I'm, like, Harlow. I'm, like, that. We try to explain, like, how it makes us feel. So I'm, like, Harlow, please stop, like, that.
Trying to get
that upsets me. Like,
empathy, yes.
I'm working hard on that and you're like ruining something that I'm doing. And she just started laughing and like doing it more. And then she like came over and she like grabbed onto my hair. And she started like pulling my hair. And this is probably my pregnancy hormones too, but I was just like, really getting like sad. And I was like, I'm gonna cry. And I'm like, this is weird because like I don't know. And I'm like looking at Mike and Mike's just like looking at me. And I'm also thinking like, would you come help me? Because she freaking has my hair right now and it hurts. I was
probably doing another puzzle. I was probably working on my own puzzle.
And I finally got her hand off my hair and I just like started bawling. And I like had to like go in the back room. And it wasn't because I was like trying to make her feel bad, but it was just my natural reaction. And just, I think I was just so frustrated that whatever. But I feel like it's not gonna register with her just seeing it that one time, but I do feel like her seeing me cry and having that reaction as opposed to me like in that moment being like, Harlow, stop, and like you're going to timeout or whatever. I feel like it had more of an impact on her to see like her mom crying and like, oh, I made my mom feel like that. Like,
so that's what I said.
And then starting to reflect like, is that a way that I want to make my mom feel? Like, I don't know. I mean, of course she's only 2 and she's not gonna totally process all of that, but... And
you were not trying to guilt her at all.
No. Like, it was just, like I said, pregnancy hormones probably.
Right.
But, yeah, she'll kind of, like, throw things and...
But then we have witnessed is she'll do things like that, and then without us prompting her, she will come up and apologize and seem... whether or not she actually means it, she seems like she's truly sorry, and
Right.
will hug us and
we
pat our backs. And
we try not to be like, you need to go say sorry.
Right.
Like, we try to talk her through it about maybe trying to get her to that point of thinking that. But yeah, it is sweet then when she comes up.
Yeah, because
it's like a Sour Patch Kid.
She 100% is. Yeah, I remember that.
Yep. Other than that, I don't know. I just feel like it's the typical behaviors that you see at this age. Just kind of like resistance to things and
she's
whatnot.
really knowing what dessert is, and she'll try and skip most of the meal and ask for a cookie or something, ice cream.
Yeah. And we don't deprive her of those things, but we really try to limit like how much refined sugar she's eating.
Refried beans.
Refried beans, yeah. Processed foods. And so we try to like, okay, you can have a dessert now, but we're not going to have one later. Right. So she even asked me for dessert after breakfast. And I'm like, well, we don't typically eat dessert after breakfast. But
funny thing is, too, every once in a while I'll be like, you want dessert? I'm like, how about one chocolate chip? And she'll be like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. So I'll give her like one tiny mini chocolate chip, and she'll be happy with that.
She's starting to learn, though. She's like, nah, I can get more
than
she's
that. Like, Dad, 2. And I'm like, you have 1.
Yeah, she is very much a negotiator.
Yes. That's funny.
Yeah.
Or the thing that she's a negotiator, too, and she'll say, you know, we have to go to bed soon, and we'll say we're going to set the Alexa timer for 15 minutes or whatever. And she's like, Alexa,
she just heard you.
Please stop. She'll say, you know, oh no. She'll say a certain time, and then I'll be like, okay, 30 seconds.
Well, the funny thing is when you'll say, like, how about 10 minutes? And she's like, no, 3.
Yep. And you're like, yep, okay. That's a good idea. And then we'll say 3 minutes, and then the thing will go off, and she'll be like, okay. She'll pause everything. And
she just has no concept of time. Right. She thinks she's getting the better end of the deal.
Right. So we're saying, like, manipulate your children with mind games, and it usually works that way.
Yeah. I think we're also going to obviously have some perspective shift a little bit, not really from like how we do things like we've been talking about, but bringing another child in, like it's just gonna change the game a little bit, and we'll have to figure out how to work all that out. But I think the type of things that we're doing with Harlow, we will still continue to do and figure out how it works with 2 children.
Right. Pray for us. Well, that's a good.
I also wanted to say real quick,
what?
Just to put an idea out there, talking about kids. You have come to me before just talking about how, like, all the people you love in your life, like, how awesome it would be to put them, like, on camera. Just, like, to have a conversation with them. Just, like, because there's a lot of people that you said, you know, you've learned from and just have, like, awesome stories from their life and experiences they've had, and it's just stuff you wish that you had recorded, just, you know, as a keepsake. But that's something that I think we still would like to do with people. But I also had the idea of, I thought that would kind of be something cool to do, like, for our kids, and just an idea, because we failed at the baby book thing.
Well, I didn't really care about the baby book, but you did.
Yeah, I tried, but I failed. I said to Mike, I'm like, I don't know, maybe that'd be cool to, like, do for our kids. Just, like, put ourselves on tape. Just, like, talk about what life was like when we grew up. And then eventually, you know, one day when they care enough to know that stuff, they would have it. But just an idea of...
Back in the 90s, we had a floppy disk.
Yeah.
We played Oregon Trail.
But it is, like, I don't have... All of my grandparents have passed. And I feel like they passed at the age that I started to be like, I wanted to know, like, what was life like for them? But, like, I don't have the opportunity to have those conversations anymore. But I think it'd just be cool, whether they watch it one day or not, just to, like, give them that stuff and whatever. Yeah. But yeah, just an idea.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wrap this up. The cool thing about living right here is it is loud because we're right by a highway. But every once in a while, they will have, like, this car show gathering of just ridiculous sports cars, and they just zoom by, like, dozens of them, and I just sit here and gawk.
Mike has to run to the window, and then if I'm, like, not awake or something, he'll try to record it, and then I'll, like, catch him watching the video back. He's like, oh, it just doesn't do it justice. And I'm like, it's okay, I don't need to hear it.
Yeah, so I just sit here and dream. One day.
Dream a little dream.
One day I'll get a fast car. But, all right, well, guys, thank you very much. We'll see you on the next one.
Yep. Take all of our advice for what it's worth.
If that wasn't an underwhelming podcast, I don't know what is. Either way, we appreciate you guys tuning in. If you found some value in what we had to say, please give us a thumbs up, a comment, and subscribe. Again, thank you very much for being here, and we will see you on the next one.